Okay. That should be it. See, like when it's like that, it just has it there. I never noticed that downward bar. It doesn't usually pop over there, so I don't have to worry about it. Hey, everybody. It's 88 degrees here. Fortunately, it's not that hot inside our temple. We're very happy about that because it's very hot outside. So, hope everybody's doing well, and I can't wait to chat. See what we want to talk about today. Hi, Ruth. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Erin, and thank you. Yes, happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. For all those who are mothers of humans or creatures or plants or whatever else they might have that they take care of. I like the original meaning of Mother's Day. It started off as a protest. I ended up going to the Nevada test site at a Mother's Day protest 2 years in a row at the Nevada test site, so that was kind of interesting. Dan says, hey all, happy Mother's Day. The Grumpy Owl says, hello, hi. Yeah, I think my daughter was in the 8th grade when I went to the first one. Maybe it was the 7th grade and the 8th grade, or can't remember for sure. Violet says, hello, hi Violet. Lulu says, hello, hi. You are basically on time. Yes, we just got started. Awesome. Sheila says, hi all from West Virginia. Love you all. Thank you. We appreciate it. Julia says, woot! Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Yes, woot, woot. On our home front, my daughter and her partner got COVID this week. Discovered it on Wednesday after Ian and I went out to the movies with her on Tuesday night, and she laughed riotously. So we're still in the window up to 12 days after exposure to keep an eye on ourselves and so forth. But so far, no symptoms. So I think we're fine, but we'll see. She's doing better. Everybody else they're doing okay. She was vaccinated. Her boyfriend, partner was not. And she got on the Paxlovid, which is the viral medication to help you minimize symptoms. And so she's in quarantine for 5 days, I guess. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So tomorrow she's out of quarantine. Violet says, I remember you saying Thor likes you. Do you know Odin as well? What can you tell me about this deity Odin? Sundrop says, hi. Hi, Sundrop. Well, Odin is kind of the leader of the group, and we actually know a fair bit about him because he has the sort of the tree going down into the underworld, into the 9 realms below, which connects to a lot of esoteric stuff that Ian did a paper on in school, which was kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah, he's responsible for, in the story, he discovered the runes while he was hanging from the tree upside down for however long it was, and I don't remember how long. He has 2 ravens that go with him.
Moonin and
Hugin and Moonin.
Hugin, yeah.
I think one is wisdom. I'm not sure. But basically they bring him knowledge and information and stuff.
Yeah, I know some cool stuff about the ravens. Originally his ravens were white, and they became black when he had them go through the dreams and the subconscious of humanity. And when they came out from that darkness, they were black. So I thought that was just sort of interesting.
Yeah, the whole story's kind of interesting, but I read about it from a little bit of interest, but I haven't really followed up or done any studies or anything, so I don't know much more than that.
And his blind eye actually sees into the other worlds. So although he lost his eye to the underworld, that means he can see in that world better than the average, better than normal people. It sort of gave him other sight. So Talon says, I pissed off my monster-in-law today. My husband and I are raising his son together. She keeps calling the little dude her baby, and today was no different other than it was in front of church ladies. I responded that if he's her baby, then she's about 5 years behind on child support. Families, they can be so much fun. Violet says, are the 9 worlds above and below, or only below?
I don't remember exactly. It seems like there's Midgard is in the middle.
That's where we are.
I think, yeah.
We're in Midgard.
But
so.
Yeah, but I don't really know. I don't remember. I used to know at one time.
Julia says one thought is Hugin and Moonin means memory. I think one is memory and one is wisdom, maybe, or knowledge.
What she's saying is Hugin is thought and Moonin means memory.
Oh. Okay. There's me and my literal brain. I didn't quite read it right. I was saying one thought is instead of one is thought.
I don't.
Thought and memory makes sense. But
again, I don't remember exactly. So.
But I always thought it was interesting about the color of the raven because Apollo had the raven for his bird first, and it was white, and he turned it black because it was too talkative. So I thought it was interesting that there were these comparable stories of the bird changing color. Julia says, I used to be a Satru and one of my patrons is Thor. Yeah. I was watching a science show and they were talking about that place where there's so much lightning strike every day, like hundreds of lightning strikes, 360 days out of the year. And I thought, yeah, I probably shouldn't go to that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they were talking to a woman who'd been hit by lightning and how things like were attracted to her. She apparently had a huge amount of static electricity. And after she was hit by lightning the first Christmas, all the tinsel from the tree kept coming off the tree and attaching itself to her body because she'd been zapped pretty well. I thought it was interesting. Tammy Service says, hey girl, hope all are enjoying a happy day. We're home and we were going to do our celebration yesterday, but since my daughter got COVID, we couldn't. So we're going to go for next Saturday, I think. And hopefully everyone is still well. And granddaughter's having a birthday on Friday, so I figured we could combine our celebrations there. Sheila says, is it okay if we say prayers and make some good offerings for you all? I wish you great health. Yes, I'm fine with that, with health prayers and wishes and things. Definitely. I want to make sure I stay healthy. Lewell says, I wonder if the gods different cultures are talking about are actually the same entities but just named different. Could be.
In some cases.
In some cases, like Ishtar, Inanna, and Astarte, from my original reading anyway, I don't know if new information has come to light since then, all meant the Queen of Heaven. So a lot of times the names of the deities weren't names, but they were titles. And the different cultures had a different word for the title, and hence the different names for the goddesses and gods. So who knows? Certainly a possibility. Tammy Service says combo. Yes, a combo day we're going to have. Lewell says, my baby turned 16 yesterday. Congratulations. My granddaughter's going to turn 30. It's just amazing. It's like, she's not the youngest grandchild though. I think her brother is 9 years younger than her, and his birthday's in July. I always want to make his birthday in June, like on the solstice, but it's not. So every year I have to remind myself it's not. That's one of those things. I can remember my birthday. I can remember Ian's birthday. I can remember my children's birthday. But then we start getting into the grandkids and I start to get fuzzy. Too many days. Oops, sorry if I blew anybody's brains out by blowing my nose. I forgot. Apparently I'm not supposed to do that. Julia said, speaking of lightning, did you know that lightning is required for plants to grow to fruition? That is why Sif had the long blonde gold hair and is married to Thor, making him a fertility god also. Well, I know that there's some plants that have to be on fire in order for their seeds to spread, like the redwood tree. But lightning, I guess, no, I did not know that all plants needed lightning. Electrical energy, I would assume, yes. So, interesting. I just know I have to be careful in lightning storms. And I try to stay away from other people just in case I get hit again. Julia said at least the grain types do. Oh, you mean like wheat and stuff? That would make sense because a lot of the grains are grown on flat plains, and that would be a place that lightning hits pretty often, is on a flat space. Up in Saskatchewan, we had a lot of lightning hits on the ground. And since it's so flat, anything poking up at all will often become a antenna for the lightning. There was a woman up there one year that was killed by lightning, and why she got out of her car at a gas station when lightning was striking the ground around her to go use a payphone, no one understands, but she did, and she didn't survive it, unfortunately. But it was one of those lessons. Tammy says, I've been doing this a while, but have never experienced sleep paralysis. Have you experienced this? A few times, but not very often. Every so often I'll be in a dream state that I don't like, and I'll have trouble waking up, and I have to move a part of my body. If I can move anything, then it breaks the cycle, and then I can move everything. But I don't think everyone suffers from sleep paralysis full on. It may be a specific kind of pattern.
Yeah, I haven't ever actually had it. Not real sleep paralysis.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. That experience that I had when I was a teenager with the fire that appeared in my room and so forth, some people mistakenly assume it was sleep paralysis because I was being held down by this energy and I couldn't move. But I was awake before I turned over, and so I wasn't paralyzed when the event started. I had already woken up and then rolled over onto my back. So I'm pretty confident that wasn't that. Julia says, yes, thus the long golden hair of Sif as a personification of harvest. Ah, like the golden sheaths of wheat and that kind of thing. Julia says, people are so removed from nature anymore, they forget to respect its power. Sometimes they have to learn the hard way and be an example. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like nature is wild, and a lot of people don't know that anymore. And they go for a walk in the woods and end up with a encounter with a wild animal that they're not expecting, and they react badly. And even in zoos, they react badly in zoos because it isn't really in their conscious mind that nature is not predictable, or maybe it is predictable but they don't understand it. We saw some woman petting an elk at the zoo, and I'm like, hello, I know he's an herbivore, but do you see the size of that mouth on him? You're petting him. Seems like a bad idea. But yeah. The Grumpy Owl says, for me, sleep paralysis is a pre-astral projection thing. It's like that for others. Not sure why it has to be that way. I found out one of my pre-astral things was in a dream I would like start to walk in a certain direction and be blocked and turn around and then be blocked and go back and forth, and then I would feel dizzy like I was falling. And if I relaxed and let it happen, then I popped out of my body. And Violet says, thanks, excuse me, thanks for sharing your Odin story. I have study to do now because Odin reached out and said hello. I have his statue, and he spoke yesterday after I got a book on gateways and more below, a journey to meet Odin. Then I got out his rune, and the rest I just marvel at now.
Cool.
It's always interesting when the deity reaches out. MBB says, Siofra, can you try to tune in to me, please? Well, I don't usually do it quite that way. You can ask me a question, but I'm not that kind of a psychic reader. I have more than one person on here right now, so I don't know that that would be a good thing either. So ask a question, and we'll see if I tune into you or not. How's the weather out there for everybody else? I know that there were a lot of tornadoes in the Midwest yesterday, like 40 some odd tomatoes. Tornadoes. Apparently my mouth's not working. Sorry.
I'd rather have tomatoes.
I bet they would rather have tomatoes falling out of the sky than tornadoes whipping things up. That would be a thing. Violet says, like summer over here. Yeah, it's probably hotter where you are than here, and it's 88 here where you are. It's probably in the 90s.
Yeah, Coos Bay never gets that high.
Tammy says, beautiful here in Missouri. Queerdro says, hello everyone, hope all are well. Beautiful day in Minnesota right now. Good. Violet says, we had thunder and lightning 3 days ago though. Yeah, when it starts to get hot is when we get good thunderstorms. We still don't get very many on the coast though. Open up my water. It's going to make a popping sound.
Sorry, my brain is not brimming with subjects today.
Yeah, well, we did get some gardening done. I did 10 pots, 5 of the sweetgrass and 5 of the sage, and 4 of each have started to sprout, and 1 of each have nothing in it. And I'm like, what are the chances that I put 10 seeds in each of those pots that don't want to germinate? It's pretty interesting, but they're coming along. Sheila says, just overcast in West Virginia, 71 degrees. Yeah, and I just talked to my mother who's in Virginia right now this morning to wish her a happy Mother's Day. And there it's about 76, I think, and very little humidity, so they're having a nice day right now. I think they're clear. There's no clouds, at least not when I talk to them. Violet says, are you happy with your coastal town? Are you staying? Well, we've been here since 92, so yeah, I think we're staying.
Much. Overall, yeah. There's a over-the-top amount of sort of backwards attitudes sometimes because it's a small town, but other than that, it's pretty pleasant.
As far as the weather goes, we generally like it here better than just about anywhere else. It takes a while to adapt to the cooler temperatures. Around here, if it gets up to 60 or so, you're, not using a sweater anymore once you've adapted to the temperature because of the high humidity. But yeah, I enjoy it. I don't like the angry conservative attitudes that are becoming more prominent in our community. But Oregon was a state where there was, they call a sundown law in Oregon. So basically, if you were black or maybe even Hispanic, but I think it was mostly the black population, it was 4. If you didn't leave the state by sundown, you might end up dead. And it took them a long time to change those laws. So there's a long history. Oregon was on the side of the South during the Civil War. And it's amazing how many Confederate flags there are in our town. It's very weird to me. Lowell says, traveling for a family vacation tomorrow. We are desperately needing a break. Life has been pretty stressful lately. Well, good. Hopefully you're going to have easy travel and go to a nice spot and enjoy it. Talon says, this weekend has had too many birthdays. Both guys are from my favorite band, but Billy Duffy was Friday, and today is Ian Ashbury's birthday. Both guys from the band The Cult.
Like The Cult. Listen to them fairly often.
Taylor W. says, would there be a difference between a god goddess and a planet that would be associated with them? Well, yeah. I mean, the deity is going to have more complete personality than just the planetary association. Like Aphrodite, Venus, Ishtar, goddesses of love, and so forth. Although they all are sort of related to the planet Venus because of that property, doesn't mean that they're exclusively Venusian.
Yeah, exactly. It can be whatever planet a god and goddess from a planetary sphere will have the basic characteristics of that sphere, but it can vary a lot as far as details and what they do and what they don't do and things like that. They can have, personality aspects, whereas the planetary forces themselves are just kind of
Generalized.
Neutral or generalized, yeah.
Denise says, happy Mother's Day. Thank you, Denise. Lowell says, speaking of colder temperatures, we're going up to Canada, so lots of sweaters. That depends on which part of Canada you're going to, and this time of year probably mostly cool, but when I lived up in the Kispiox, even though I was 1,000 miles north of Vancouver, British Columbia, in the summer it got over 100. So it doesn't change as soon as you hit the border.
Yeah,
but
I used to like hot temperatures more than I do now. I got adjusted to this over here now.
Layers are always a good idea, just so you're prepared for anything. But yeah, we had some very hot summers up there. Didn't have much humidity, so it wasn't the same kind of heat. It gets up into 90 here. It's like we're just dying. We don't like it. Tammy says that robin's nest blew from a tree during the storms this week, breaking the eggs on my front stoop. Aw, any special use for these shells different from other eggshells? I don't know, but robin's eggs are blue, so they would certainly have a nice color to them. And there's a lot of things people use crushed shells for, different spells and things. Not that I'm aware of, though, as far as specifically. Dan says, Canadian here, can confirm it's hot. Yes. Just depends on where you're going and your altitude. If you're going high in the mountains, no matter where you are, it generally gets cold. We were in the summertime around Bend, Oregon, and we were up in the Alpine Lakes, and it was frozen the ground was frozen in the morning. It was very cold up there because it was such a high altitude. So yeah. It's interesting weather. Lowell says Montreal is where she's going. Tammy says, thanks. You're welcome. I would look into it. I mean, look into the history of mythology and things like that around the bird. And that might give you some ideas if you wanted to keep the shells, what to do. MBB says, Siofra, what are your experiences with those about to pass on? Well, when I am aware of that with people, I mean, my daughter-in-law's mother got sick and was hospitalized, and they asked me to do a healing on her, which I did. And I was pretty sure she was going to pass relatively soon, and was very surprised when it turned out that she didn't right away. but they asked me to help her pass to the other side if it happened, and they were prepared for that. And it was interesting, when she died, she actually, the moment of her death, she actually appeared as a light where I was, and it was in the afternoon, and I was sitting in my doctor's office, and I could feel the presence of her, and the air suddenly just got bright. It's hard to describe, but when that happens, it's like somebody just took a 100-watt bulb and cranked it up to 1,000 watts. It just brightens the air. And I was like, no, not right now, because I'm at my doctor's office.
A portable circle got leaked out.
Oh, I'm sorry. And that night, she came to me and showed herself to me as the woman I had met, because I never knew her when she was young. So when she appeared next to me that night, she showed me her face, and then she grew younger and showed me what she used to look like and let me know that everything was fine, and she was successfully crossing over. So that's what happened with that. And I work a lot with spirits that have been gone for a long time in crossing over, earthbound ghosts and that kind of thing, which is a different kind of experience. But what I got from her when I was doing the energy work was I could feel the clearing away of, I guess, the muddiness that we can often have when we're alive, worries, concerns about things that get in our way and so forth, and there's a clarity that's left when someone's getting ready to cross over. And it usually happens like about 3 days or so before they pass. And she did come out of what she was in and was very coherent and talkative and so forth for about 3 days before she decided to finally leave. And her daughter was with her when it happened. And so this is Mother's Day, so she's having a bit of a difficulty with the holiday because of that, because it just happened a few months back. So that would be what I can think of to say to that. Denise says to MBB, good question. Val says, hello from Noit. Star Tarot says, hi, Siofra again. Hello, everyone. Happy Mother's Day. Hi, Star. I think Val is from Brazil. And I've been trying to work on the idea of translating our videos into other languages. Someone was asking me to do that. And I'm still trying to figure out how that happens, and what I need to do at my end. So I can learn how to do new things, but it takes me a little bit of time and research and so forth. And Ian's going to give me a
Maybe.
help with that. He says maybe.
I will give you help with it.
Maybe he'll figure it out.
I'll try anyway.
Mm-hmm. Denise says, thank you for this description as I am going through this with my mom as we speak. Thank you for helping those who are earthbound. You're welcome. And, in my view, of course, it's a transition from one state to another. It's not an ending. And after remembering so many past lives, I can't imagine it as an ending because of that. Yeah. And in helping the spirits that cross over, it's really interesting to see how different each one of their journeys to the other side is and what awaits them. So it was, it was very interesting. It's also unique and individualistic, for sure. I think some people go easier than others, and who knows exactly why. I think some people are afraid of what they're going to find on the other side and resist it because they're worried they're going to go to a bad place. I had one earthbound spirit who'd been murdered, was here in town, and she was afraid to cross over because she had been a prostitute and she thought she would go to hell because of her livelihood. And I told her that wasn't the case. I showed her where she was going to go and that there wasn't any judgment in the light. And so then she was willing and able to cross over, so that was good. Denise says, I meant earthbound spirits. Yeah. Definitely. I had a call this week that was sort of odd. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. I haven't decided whether I'm willing to try and help or not, because the guy sounds completely off his nutter. His conversation about what's happening in his house was so all over the place. From he knows everything there is to know about everything, and I would be very impressed with his knowledge, and he can take care of it himself, and he's not afraid to. He's terrified and doesn't know what's going on, and he's hearing voices, and there's like, yeah, sort of some very odd energy with that, and I still haven't decided what we're doing, but I'm definitely not going by myself. MBB says, I've lost both of my parents within the last 2 years, both practicing Catholics, and both saw things that we just cannot explain. It has shook all of us to hear their stories. Interesting. A lot of people see things just before they die and describe them, and medical science is coming along to the notion that something real is happening and that there's something to what they're seeing. It's not just the brain dying and, shooting off random images and stuff like that. There's a show I watched some of, which is like I Survived Journeys After Death Back to Life or something like that. And the first season I thought was really well done and interesting because they didn't have like a focus on one particular religious philosophy, and all of the experiences were unique. And some of them had some religious overtones, some of them didn't. And so it was interesting. The second season so far has not been that interesting to me because they're choosing the experiences from people who have got a very strong religious background, and their experience was replete with Christian symbolism, like meeting God and Moses and Jesus and all this other stuff. So I'm not finding it as interesting because they're narrowing their focus. But it is still kind of interesting in the sense that so many of them report seeing what they did in life as part of the process, even though they ended up coming back. So Ivan says, thank you for sharing your wisdom and kindness. Much love. You look and sound amazing. May you be well. Thank you. I hope to be very well. That is definitely my wish as well. Robin says, the live chat didn't go on until now for me. Happy Mother's Day. Hi. Well, you have to sometimes find it or have the notifications set up, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Mercury is still retrograde, even though it's coming out and going direct tomorrow. So it could be affecting that. I find a lot of computer stuff gets affected during this time more than anything.
Yeah,
but
I
hey,
have a lot
you're
of
here now.
problems with ridiculous type of things just causing me to take lots of extra time. It takes me 3 hours to do something that should take 15 minutes, that kind of thing. I get a lot of that.
Yeah, it took me an entire week to be able to change one automatic payment from my bank account that I needed to close to go to the other account. It took an entire week of calling and talking and then calling someone else and finally getting it through and then going to the bank in person, and it was
Yeah, that's something that should be relatively simple.
Yeah, I always, it's like there are still some companies that haven't joined the 21st century, apparently, and that company was one of them. At least I didn't have to go and order checks so that they could do it. So they did get that far, thank goodness. But their computer system wasn't working well. And then the bank said the same thing. Their computers had been down all morning, and they were wondering what was going on. So we all blamed Mercury, because it can't defend itself. But, it's not going to be able to be blamed for much after this for a while. It'll just be our normal stuff. Robin says, red looks very nice on you. Thank you. This is sort of a brick red, I think is what you call it, sort of a darker red. Probably shows up brighter on the screen.
Yeah, it shows up a little brighter on my screen, but
Yeah.
than it actually looks.
On my skin.
It also shows up like silkier and more
Well, it is silk.
interesting looking than, a lot of the interesting changes in color and stuff are filtered out. Looks good on yours.
Yeah. So Val says, Happy Mother's Day. Thank you, Val. Yeah. There's always that element of danger when you're walking into a situation that you don't know the people that are involved. I did one at a trailer park in a parking lot, actually. That's when I decided I shouldn't do those things by myself, as I was standing there realizing that these people were in a house on wheels and they could just take off with me. And there wouldn't be much I could do about it. And I'm like, safety first.
And we were a little concerned because they had way too many pictures of Mark Harmon everywhere.
That's when I went back. They really loved Mark Harmon. They had posters up everywhere, and we're like...
For those who don't know, he was Gibbs on NCIS.
Robin says, what are we discussing? Well, sort of someone who called recently wanting a paranormal investigation at their house. According to them, they have a lot of poltergeist activity, which could be very interesting. But they also are seeing a psychiatrist and want evidence to prove that they're not crazy. They've been drinking and were found in the middle of the road and got arrested. So there's a court case going on, and they lost their job, wondering why that would be if they were drinking and found in the middle of the street. I'm thinking there could be a reason. Sort of indicates a little bipolar kind of energy coming off of them, and they're not consistent. His descriptions of what was going on and how he felt about it kept shifting completely from one sphere of, I'm very knowledgeable, I know everything, I can take care of myself, and you would be amazed at how great I am, to I'm freaking out and I don't know what's going on. I guess he also thinks that an entity of some kind got inside of him because his hand moved by itself and he punched himself in the head. So there's a lot of stuff, but I've not been there in person, so it's unclear exactly what's going on. Would be interesting to see things jumping up and down, but we'll see. Rita says, Happy Mother's Day. It's been a while since I've been able to watch. Much love and light to you guys. Hi, Rita. Thank you for dropping in. Robin says, yes, you have to be aware of that. Imagination versus reality. And the thing is that our imagination can inform reality without us even realizing it. And so trying to stay clear is a challenge for all of us, really, when it comes to it. The idea that two things happened at the same time doesn't mean that the two things are related to each other. They could be completely different sources and have nothing to do with one another, and it's just coincidental that they happened around the same time. So that's a hard one, especially for magical people, because we want everything to be connected.
Yeah, well, and I'd like to see something with actual physical results. Like I would like to see an actual poltergeist activity happen or something like that.
Well, we did have
Hopefully
one.
it wouldn't be me thrown against a wall or something, but
Well, we had one at that one house in Coquille.
Well, not that I saw
But
it happen.
yeah, I saw it happen or heard it happen. Things were flying off the shelf in the kitchen and landing in the middle of the floor, and no one else was in the room. And I could see the kitchen. But yeah, it's interesting. Robin says, I found a book I thought Ian would like, The God Code. He goes into the Kabbalah. I didn't agree with all, but interesting. Have you read The God Code?
Nope, I haven't. I'll look into that one of these days if I get the opportunity.
With all the other research you're doing?
Interesting. Well, yeah. keep it on my list somewhere.
Somewhere. Do you know the author? Quirdo says, just because the ground is wet doesn't necessarily mean that it has rained. Proverb in a language I made in my teens, translated. This is true. It could mean that someone watered their lawn.
Yep.
Robin says, we had one. A young girl ghost threw a ball down the hall. She was murdered, it turned out, in her home. Wow. And in this particular case, I investigated the house pretty thoroughly, and I can't find any evidence of anyone having died in the house, and he's only lived in the house for like a few months. So he's new to the environment, but the activity has followed him. So I think he has an attachment of some kind, or he is the poltergeist. I mean, he could be. They're finding elderly people now are becoming centers for that kind of activity where they're throwing things. Laura says, hi, new subscriber here. I'm really glad I found someone I can learn so much from. Could I ask about your opinion on sleep paralysis and possible experiences with it? What do you think it is? We actually, ironically, someone asked that question just earlier, and I don't have much experience with it except on occasion. So I'm not a good source of information. And from the scientific point of view, it means that you woke up but your body didn't, and your brain is still keeping you from moving. Otherwise, you'd be acting out your dreams all the time, which is weird when you see it happen. Ian got pneumonia once, and he was acting out all of his dreams. And
I could my body move.
Right, yeah. I could see what he was dreaming based upon what he was saying, what his hands were doing. I watched him build components. I watched him pet his cat and talk to his cat, and so it's a safety mechanism to keep us from like running. If you're running in a dream, you don't want to be running down the road in reality and get hit by a car, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've experienced a little bit of that, only in some very specific and small ways. Mostly when I realized I had to wake myself up from a nightmare, or I thought something was going on I needed to wake myself up for, and then trying and not being able to move. Yeah, a couple of times I've heard things that I thought were actual sounds, but I actually dreamed them, and then I tried to wake myself up and end up with that can't move thing.
Yeah, and that's the kind that I've had, where I've managed to finally move something. I usually yell, move a hand or something like that, and then I'm out. It's like an electrical storm in my brain when that happens. And I can sometimes predict that it's going to happen based on how I feel when I'm going to sleep. If I have this electrical buzz thing happening in my head, I'm more likely to have that experience. So, just because something has a physiological reason doesn't mean there's not also an energetic, magical, spiritual reason as well, again. So Sheila says, what's chaos magic? How would you describe chaos magic? I know it's not something I'm interested in personally.
I haven't studied it much. I think it derive from Austin Spear's work.
I think so.
I don't even remember what the definition means at this point. I'm sorry.
Jono knows because he gave us the definition once. But yeah, apparently we're drawing a blank at the moment. We'll have to look that up and talk about it.
Well, I can certainly do that real quick here.
So MBB says, we come from a Catholic home in Ireland. We have not only had spirits in our house, but lights above our home also. We never say it to anyone. It's just something that we're used to. So do you think that it has to do with the Fae, the lights perhaps, or extraterrestrial kind of visitation? I don't know. And certainly Ireland and places in Europe, there's a lot of places that have a lot more spirit activity because they've been inhabited for so long. And then the beliefs of the people that live there help to move the experiences along certain patterns, if that makes sense.
So Wikipedia says chaos magic teaches that the essence of magic is that perceptions are conditioned by beliefs and that the world as we perceive it can be changed by deliberately changing those beliefs.
Okay. Well, there is
That's
some...
according to Wikipedia.
Right. There is some truth to that statement. But...
Yes, drew heavily from the occult beliefs of artist Austin Osman Spare.
Okay, you got that right.
Yep. It has been characterized as an invented religion.
But just changing your beliefs isn't enough, because reality has its own set of rules as well. I mean, it's not like you can just decide that reality doesn't exist around you, and if you believe that's strong enough, it'll all disappear. Because there's the collective reality of everything that exists, not just humans, but animals, plants, the stars, the planets, everything in existence, of which we are just such a small part. Anyway, yeah. So Robin says, I had sleep paralysis in my 30s. It's a sleep disorder. And Laura says, oh, sorry, I just joined. That's okay. We don't mind asking or having the same question. I just thought it was interesting that someone else was talking about it. Alan says, at Tammy's service, you can always crush to powder and use them in protection spells. That'd be for the robin's eggs. Lewell says, guys, chocolate milk plus chocolate chip muffins are awesome. Eating them now while listening to you. Yes, if you like chocolate, it sounds delightful. I like chocolate.
And we do, yeah.
Denise says, hi, Laura Aaron. Lewell says, I used to sleepwalk as a child. Sleep paralysis is a common occurrence in my adult life. I'm used to it. No big deal. Robin says, Lewell, don't take Ambien. Lewell says, I tried that once. Doctor prescribed it. Didn't work. Only kept me down for a couple of hours. I was having insomnia issues at the time. Plus, I talked a lot in my sleep, so I gave up. Now, weirdly enough, I have a family story about sleepwalking and how dangerous it can be. My grandfather, they lived in New Jersey during the Depression, and he had an uncle that survived the Depression with money. He was one of the few people that didn't go down completely in the 1929 crash. But people were very proud, and giving them money wasn't okay, so he gave my grandfather a new car. And my grandfather worked as a guard in the state penitentiary at the time, and he had this very vivid dream where one of the inmates escaped from the penitentiary and stole the new car, and he was running down the road chasing the guy in the car. My grandmother woke up to my grandfather crouching on top of the dresser in their bedroom, where he proceeded to leap off the dresser, run across the room, open up the second story or third story window of their house, and jump out the window because he was chasing the guy in the car. And he woke up on the way down and, of course, shattered his legs. I mean, he had hundreds of fractures. But then he wouldn't let anyone call an ambulance until he was back upstairs because he didn't want anyone to think he tried to commit suicide. It's a weird time. So he pulled himself into the house and up the stairs. And my mother remembers it pretty vividly because of that part. But he definitely was sleepwalking in that case. And so it's too bad that it didn't work. So yeah, people can actually get in some pretty bad trouble. Robin says, reading a book, Magic of the Celtic Otherworld, Steve Blamir's very nice Irish history. I recommend it. Cool. Tammy says, during my sleep paralysis, never had it before, felt someone moving under the covers and saw the blanket lift. It stopped when I focused on thinking, no, stop. Sleep paralysis or something else? Yeah, that's always the question, isn't it? Because sometimes it can be one thing or the other or both. It really sometimes depends. Robin says, Tammy service, yes, you feel all kinds of things. Hard to believe it's not real as it happens. Gageko says, I learned how to break out of sleep paralysis, but I'll just go right back into it if I try to go right back to sleep. Ha! And Tammy says, thank you. To Robin, me, the universe, you're welcome from all of us. But yeah, so life is interesting. Some of the stories you hear when you're a kid, though, can certainly impact your view of the world. They used to make me watch horror flicks when I was a kid. Not they, my father did. He liked watching me get scared. And don't understand that tendency that parents have. Of course, he was a sadist, so I'm sure there's a real reason. That's the reason why he liked doing that. But Robin says, I outgrew it, but I have fibromyalgia now, another sleep disorder. Painful. Hope you don't get it. Fibromyalgia can hit more than just sleep, too. It can be all the time. They finally gave Ian something for his lack of sleep. He never slept through the night until about 6 years ago. We talked to so many different doctors, and no one would give him anything to help him sleep. They never suggested Ambien, which is ironic. And our doctor that we currently have finally said, here, try this, and it worked. And it shuts off the one part of his brain that keeps him awake, and it's a very specific kind of thing that medication is for. And so he's experienced sleep for the first time in his life and been able to dream and starting to remember his dreams and everything else. So it's pretty interesting. It can really affect your health, not being able to sleep well.
Not to mention your driving.
Yeah. He started dreaming while he was awake and driving on the road, which is very dangerous.
Very frightening.
Yes. Shay says, hello, Siofra and Ian. Hello, all. Ducking in for a minute. Hi, Shay.
Hi, Shay.
Thank you for ducking in and saying hello. Luel says, yes, I have fibromyalgia and underactive thyroid and migraines. Life is fun. Yeah, we all have something like that we have to deal with. I have that weird neurological muscle spasm thing that causes me different forms of agony at different times. But at least I found something that generally works to minimize the effects. Elena says, can you talk about twin flames? Okay, so twin flames is a new concept that got started a while back. And from what I've read about it, the idea is that it's like another piece of your soul incarnating at the same time, and then you meet and you try to put your soul back together. You know, some separation happened way back in the eons, and all the relationships are difficult. There's a lot of conflict involved in them. It makes no sense to me. Yeah. I mean, from a purely social perspective and emotional health point of view, allowing yourself to be in a relationship that is damaging emotionally because you believe that the other person is your twin flame and that you are required to be with them to work something out, I think is a dangerous notion. Because I believe what we need to do is to learn boundaries, better boundaries, and to be healthy for ourselves and not put ourselves in a position where we're forcing trauma upon us for some ideal or notion of fulfilling some kind of promise we made in another life or whatever it might be. Because the life you're in is the one that's the most important. And taking care of yourself and loving yourself is just as important as loving someone else, if not more so. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't possibly truly love someone else. You need to take care of you and your own heart and everything else. So that's my perspective on what I've read about the twin flame thing. Also with soulmates, the same idea. The idea that there's one person out there that's right for you and you know, you'll fit together and so forth. If I have a soulmate, it's Ian. But we don't think of ourselves that way. We're both strong individuals. And I think that's a healthier kind of relationship. There's a Greek story about a couple that honor the gods when they don't know that they're gods. And it's a story that's always stuck with me as far as my idea of what a healthy relationship would be like. And they were given anything they wanted, and what they wanted was to be together after they were dead, and always, be in close proximity to one another. And so when they did die, the gods turned them into trees, two different trees, but they were far enough away from each other that they didn't take each other's nutrients from the soil or take all the sunlight from the sky. They were individual, different species of trees. They were close enough to each other that their branches could intertwine and support and sustain one another, even in that form, and always be together. And that has always been an ideal to me, that if we are individuals and strong individuals, we meet another strong individual that's compatible, then it's okay. You can have some differences, but if you respect one another, it works out so much better.
Yeah.
So I've always liked that story because of it, and every so often I post it. Queerdo says, I've had experiences where I'm having a nightmare where I am being scanned by an alien craft. I get the sensation of my body vibrating and there's a light surrounding me. Scary. That could be similar to that electrical stuff that I was talking about that I sometimes get. It could be your brain is interpreting that electrical conduct, stuff happening as a light. But you never know. Have you ever had an abduction experience? What happened to my toilet paper? There it is. Maybe you did have something like that happen. Or maybe it's just an image. Robin says, wow, I want that med. I take gabapentin, Roboxin, THC, Ambien, and antihistamine. I wonder how I wake up. Oh, gabapentin is something I know I can't take, and my granddaughter can't take, and her other grandmother can't take because it makes us hallucinate and go crazy and lose our memory.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
The one they've got me on is called trazodone, and it targets a specific neurotransmitter. It targets the same area neurotransmitter as the one targeted by LSD that makes it have that stay awake feeling. And that's pretty much what my insomnia is like, as if like you've taken some LSD and you can't go to sleep, but without any other sensations, just the not being able to go to sleep thing.
So Robin said, Lulu, I have the same. Have you tried Imitrex for migraines? Works well for me. Julia says, agreed to Siofra. I don't even know my own name. About twin flame perspective. Thank you. Shay says, here on better boundaries. Twin flame sounds like a manipulation to keep someone in an abusive relationship. Yeah, that's pretty much how I think of it. Lulu says, I've had Imitrex 20 years ago. Since then, it was a ton of other things I've tried. Right now, Neurotech works. That's for the migraines. Elena says, I pray to the universe about us, and I feel him, and know we are soulmates. Robin says, you could waste your time looking for the one and miss the one who counts.
Which is pretty valid. Siofra and I had given up on looking for anybody. Both of us had at that point. Pretty much.
Well, your primary relationship is supposed to be with yourself. And the search for the other is a search to fill a gap that you feel. That is where that sort of urge, that need comes from. And as long as you have this hole in you that you think someone else needs to fill, you're never going to be in a healthy relationship, because anyone you pick is never going to quite fill the hole the way you want them to. And then you get projections and expectations and all this other stuff on the other person. They can't be themselves, you can't be yourself. It's like a no-win scenario.
But if you can fill that hole yourself, so to speak,
Right. If you're
then-
not with them because you're looking
then a
to be filled.
relationship can just become a plus.
Right.
Can.
It
Doesn't
can.
mean they will be.
Right. And I wasn't looking for anyone. He wasn't looking for anyone. I decided if my only choices were a bunch of a-holes that were out there, which had been my experience up to that point, I would much rather just be by myself because I was tired of all the drama and the trauma and everything else associated with it. And so it was like, fine, I'm just going to move on and just be me and not worry about it. And he had done pretty much the same thing, and that's when we met.
Though I did have somebody tell me about 2 weeks before that I was going to meet somebody soon, and I said, yeah, right.
And that she was going to be a witch.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
what do you know?
And what do you know? She was right. But if she was wrong, he wouldn't remember that.
True. That's a good point, too.
That's how those prophecies are like, they become prophecies when they're proven true, but before that, they're just someone else's idea. But yeah, it isn't a simple thing. There's no doubt about it. And the way society has structured relationships and imagery and so forth out there, it's like, even in my day, okay, so I was born in 1950. I had all the fairy tales and Disney stories and the Prince Charming coming to rescue the princess and wake her up out of a sleep after 100 years or whatever. It's like only that would be the thing. It's like your fulfillment was to be discovered and recognized by someone else as being the person. And it really makes you vulnerable to falling for the wrong person. So we have our anniversary coming up in a little over a week. It's on the 23rd, and it's going to be our 31st wedding anniversary.
And we're going to go have a nice dinner.
We're going to go have a nice dinner. On Jackie. She gave us money to go have dinner. But, it's a choice to be in a relationship with somebody. And if the expectation is that that person needs to be a certain way in order to be the right person for
Or
you.
needs to be changed.
If you have to change them in order to modify them, in order to make them the right person, they're clearly not the right person either. So yeah, interesting thing. Relationships are
Yeah, it's tough.
fascinating.
Easier to talk about than it is to accomplish, of course.
Elena says it's hard to have to get your life together before we can be together. Well, maybe they're not the right person to be with anyway. Aaron says, I would love a relationship like that. Lewell says, yes, twin flames is a nice manipulation narcissistic people use to explain the toxic situations. Yeah. And boy, do the toxic spiritual teachers love that one. It's like, and it's not only that, if you don't like something, there's something wrong with you. So you're not open enough, you're not spiritual enough, you're not well enough to be able to allow this to happen. You're closed off.
Something's wrong with you. You don't like pepper.
Yeah, that's right. And so there's that. Moonradish says, clap, clap. MBB says, Siofra, can you give a small few words on your journey into spirituality and what you see for us new people? Oh, excitement and terror combined in equal measure, because change is terrifying. And when you're starting on a path to open up to yourself and do shadow work and all this other stuff, it can be overwhelming and somewhat frightening because you're embarking on a journey to change yourself, and you don't know what you're going to change into. That in itself is a frightening thing to do. So doing the journey takes courage and trust that you're going to make it through okay. As long as you're following your heart and you're being a good person to the best of your ability. Making mistakes is normal. We all do when we're learning. And when learning becomes overwhelming, take smaller steps and learn one thing at a time. Because in the beginning, when I was reading Starhawk's book, it's like she talked about that. It's like, you learn how to draw a circle and how to call in the elements and how to cast the circle and how to call in the god and the goddess, how to do the work, how to raise the energy, how to move the energy. It's like if you tried to do it all at once, it would be too much. So enjoy each step, whether you're learning about crystals or plants or the tarot or the Kabbalah or whatever your interest lies in. Enjoy the step that you're in and the knowledge that you gain, but realize it's just a part of it. It's not the whole thing. And yeah. And then give yourself a break. You don't have to do it all at once. It's okay to have down days. It's not a requirement that you be constantly on and spiritual and, tuned in, etc. It's okay to just want to watch TV and take a break or go for a walk or not talk to anybody. You got to take care of yourself, and you're with cycles just like everything else in the universe. There's times when everything will come to you and it'll be easy. There's times when things will be blocked, and learning the differences between the universe blocking you because it's a bad idea and the universe blocking you because you're not ready and the universe blocking you because it's a test to see if you're ready. Those are the tricky bits. That's really tricky bits. And eventually you start to figure it out, what's right for you. And you can't teach it to anyone else in that sense, because we're all on an individual journey. So your truth is just yours. It's no one else's. You meet someone along the path that says they know everything, run as fast as possible, because they're a fake.
Yeah.
The people who know everything would never say they knew everything in the first place. But the people who know a lot know there's a lot they still don't know. And so, this is a journey, a hero's journey, exciting, open up to the universe experience, learning more about yourself kind of thing. And some things you learn about yourself you're not going to like, but if you don't learn them, you can't change them. And you can't change anyone else. You can only change you. I think that's it. I waxed. So you got me.
Better than waning.
I did a waxing thing.
Wax on and wax.
That's right. Robin says, my husband takes trazodone. It gave me hallucinations, but he does well on it too. Well, good.
It doesn't affect me other than put me to sleep.
Everybody's brain is different. Knowing what works for you and what doesn't work for you is a good step. Quirdo says, yeah, I was thinking my experiences are like your brainstorms. I have had living experiences with extraterrestrials. I don't have any conscious memory of it, though. Yeah, well, that's probably a good thing. Maybe that means you did not, which is not a bad thing not to have had. Moonratter says, when you first learn to astral project, do you end up in your own home to start? He did.
I did.
He ended up in his own home, in the dark, with nobody around, and bored out of his mind, and walking around.
That was another incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got out in the middle of the night, and I couldn't do anything that I couldn't do in my real body. And I was living way out in the woods at the time. So all I could do is just wander around outside, and there was nothing to see and nothing to do. And it was so totally boring, I ended up going and jumping back in my body. I tried to get off the ground or fly or any of those things. I'm thinking, hey, I should be able to do something now since I'm out, I realized I was out. My body was asleep and I was dreaming. It's like, nope, it was just boring. But the first few times I started, I would pop out and end up hanging upside down above my chest while I was asleep. So for me, it's always been that kind of thing. And then I started learning how to do it consciously and on purpose. And then, of course, you're in control at that point.
Yeah, for me, I had spontaneous out-of-body mental travel as a kid. So, I got a tickle in my throat. But I had a few times when I popped out of my body in my own bedroom. I had one funny one where I made it down to the bottom of the bed, and the two beings, the one from Pluto and the one from Jupiter, were there at my feet, and I was yelling, I did it, I got my conscious mind to come with me, and then I faded back into my body. So yeah, it varies. Laura says, I believe we have multiple soulmates, platonic or romantic, that come to us during certain moments of our lives for a short or long time because we're a vibrational match and they help us along the way.
Well, I can't explain, how we met, but I'm glad it happened. That's all I can say.
We are extremely happy about that. Even though that psychic insisted we were getting a divorce, and that was 25 years ago, I think. Boy, was she wrong. Robin says, happy anniversary. Yes, it's nice when it's the right person. And if, we give each other room to grow and change, it's like, that's another thing, is when you're with the right person, it's like, if you're not changing, you're not doing something right. I mean, life is about change. It's about new experiences and new realizations and so forth, and changing your form in that sense. And if the person you're with is committed to the person you are and doesn't want you to change, well, then it becomes not a healthy relationship. But we give each other room to change. Yes. He's gone through plenty of transformations since we've gotten together, but he's done them at his own time, in his own pace, and his own way. And that in itself is a wonderful thing. MBB says, Siofra, what are your opinions on social media and dating apps? I hate them, but you feel like it's the only way to meet someone and is kind of expected in modern dating. Well, since I have zero experience with dating apps, I have no concrete experiences with them except from what I hear from other people.
Yep, we had already got together by the time cell phones came out, so, yep.
And I think the best advice is, if you're looking for someone who's compatible with you, attend things that are along your interest lines, regardless of who you are. So we met at a pagan dessert potluck.
It just seems like a good place to meet anyway, yeah.
That's the first time we met. So I was doing my thing. I saw the ad on the wall of the grocery store or whatever about this pagan dessert potluck. I decided I wanted to go. I had to walk there because my ex had left with the car and never come back. So I was without transportation, and I was just wanting to go for a fun time and meet some people, and I had no expectations. So doing something that is of interest to you, you're more likely to meet people compatible with at least those interests.
Yeah.
But then that's not always the case. Like, the guy who left me was also a witch, but yeah, people are people.
That doesn't mean they're perfect, but let's face it, if you're meeting somebody at a bar, you're going to get somebody who is drinking, yeah.
Who likes to drink at bars. Yeah. So Lul says, my husband and I met in California, but we are both from Eastern Europe, and he was born and raised in the town where my parents got married. I was made, then my mother left, and I was born in a different country. And then we both individually, independently of each other, ended up in the same California university where we met. Fate? Yep, sometimes it seems like it might be. Robin says, I need to go. Mother's Day dinner. Love and blessing to you both and all in the chat. Bye, Robin. Thank you for dropping in. Ian says, bye, Robin. Kara says, have fun, Robin. Taylor says, in the show Reservation Dogs, the main characters are scared to make eye contact with an owl figure statue. Would you know about this? That is based on the idea that owls are omens of death, and it's not true in all cultures. It's only true in some cultures, and it's a superstition, and I don't think the owls are aware of this. They're just doing their owl thing outside a person's home. So maybe it was a statue that was supposed to be a protective thing, since I don't think I ever watched Reservoir Dogs. Carol Lee says, a yes, true, I have still a lot to learn and I'm happy for it. If you know everything, you would be bored. Yeah, there's that too. Violet says, when you put paint into a wax sigil, do you just wipe it off with a cloth, or is there a trick?
Well, from what I've seen, things I've seen done up in wax are usually engraved into the wax. So you would be, if you were going to paint that, you'd be putting it into a groove that would contain the wax, so that would be the only trick if there is one. I'm not sure how well paint will stick on a wax, something made of wax, but that's what I would do. I would engrave whatever the figure is right into the wax and then put the paint in that if I wanted to.
Tammy says, excellent spiritual advice. Awesome. Carol Lee says, I did that too. I was in bed, went out of my body, walked downstairs, heard my grandma asking my mom if I could drive her to the Hess station to get a Hess truck. Then I ran upstairs, jumped in my body, but my leg wasn't in place. I had to pull my leg in. Then I woke up. All right. Moonradish says, so during astral projection in your home, are you able to see entities that may be in your home? Well, I did. So yeah, sometimes you can. And you can also see all the dust particles. It's amazing. Tiny says, hey, y'all, I've been here, just haven't commented yet. Well, hi, Tiny. Grumpy Owl says, silly superstition. Yep. Joy says, hello all, just popped in to say hello and happy Mother's Day. My daughter's in town today, so I'll watch the replay later. Well, we'll see you later then, Joy. Have a good day. Lula says, never hear of such a thing about an owl before. Small birds, according to my grandmother, who knocked on your window are a bad sign, but not an owl. Yeah, it depends on cultures, traditions.
Yeah, there are definitely people that are afraid of them because they fly at night, things like that.
In my family, there used to be a thing, if a bird flew into your window and died, that meant someone in the family had passed away, which actually did happen several times. But when Jade had one on her window, she freaked out. She called me to make sure I wasn't dead, and I was fine. So it isn't always the case. Carol Lee says, and I had to drive her. Yep. Well, good. You heard right then. That's always a good thing. Superstitions are funny.
Yep.
Like Friday the 13th, we just watched a little show about that. And it's like, I have clients who will not go anywhere on Friday the 13th. I'm like, yay! There's fewer people on the road because they're afraid of the day. Makes it easier for me.
Thing we were watching said they theorized that it went back to the Templars and when the king persecuted them all and arrested them all at once, and the curse that was
the death curse
spoken by Jacques de Molay
as they were killing him, burning him alive. I think death curses are real and have a lot of power. But his curse came to fruition. The 2 people he named died within that year. His was a pretty specific curse, and it worked, apparently. So, but I don't think that means the whole day is cursed for all time.
No, but what I was going to add to that is, though, if you look at the Indian as in not Native American, but as in from India, or not from India, sorry, I'm getting my things confused. Kabbalistically, so it'd be Jewish, 13 is the number of love and unity, according to the Kabbalistic stuff. So it would be rather the opposite of, a bad luck day. That would be considered a good luck day, 13 being the numbers of love and unity and similar words like that.
Well, and 13 also is like the number for for Friday is the Venus day, and then the 13 has got other positive connotations.
Yeah. That
relate to the same thing.
But all depends on where you're coming from.
Yep. Julia says, how about if a bird flies into your home and your cat catches and kills it? I'd say you have a very good cat. Good hunter. Rita says, very interesting live. Have really enjoyed. Always appreciate how much knowledge and insight you guys can provide. Well, it always helps when people ask me good questions that make me sort of delve, I guess.
Yeah, after you start getting this old, you have so much you don't know where to pull from or where to start.
Well, it gives me a thread to follow down.
You're not losing your memory yet.
Well, there's that. Lewis says, our house is full of owls. My son and husband love them. I love them too. I think owls are wonderful. The grumpy owl says they usually symbolize the messenger, hence why they were used as such in Harry Potter. I know lots of good, cool owl stories. Yes, I bet you do, which is why you have the grumpy owl name. Carolee says, I learned so much here. I love it. Good. We're grateful. Vanessa V says, hello, I'm super late, but I guess I can just say hello. Hope everyone is well. Hi, Vanessa V. I guess you'll get to watch all the great conversations that we've had in the replay. But yeah, we're doing pretty good. Staving off COVID. Trying to, keep it at arm's length.
Yeah, watch other people get it.
That's right. Well, my mother's had it. My sister and her husband have had it. Now my daughter and her partner has had it. So far I haven't had it. Ian hasn't had it. And Ashley hasn't had it. I don't think Cody's had it either. But, I figure eventually everyone will get it. At least once.
I'm not going to include myself in that. I don't admit that possibility until after it happens.
That's right. Okay, I agree. Julia says, oh, my cat has found a way out of the house now, and she's bringing all kinds of critters, mice, rats, and a couple of juvenile hares. I have to watch where I go for sure these days.
Yeah, you don't want to sit on one of those.
No kidding. Gaga Gecko says, is there any yoga to help you get more psychic? Anything that helps you tune in better to your own conscious and subconscious and your body will assist in developing psychic abilities.
There are tons of it, really, but we're not talking hatha yoga. It's using other terms such as jnana yoga. And there's the main one I can't think of, the Paramahansa Yogananda did, the Kriya Yoga. That's one that have that. So if you want to delve into the esoteric yogas, there's a lot of stuff about working on psychism. There's work with the Kundalini. Kundalini yoga is another type. There's lots of variations and things. Of course, like anything else, you have to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff as it goes.
Well, and actually in Hatha Yoga, some of the ways that you can learn it will do that as well. Like corpse pose, for example, is a way to become much more aware of your consciousness in your body and how what you think affects your body, and it's got a whole series of exercises of clearing out the chakras. So,
in fact, if you actually want to go with that route with the more Hatha Yoga, there's the Yoga Sutras of, and I don't know how to properly pronounce the name, but it looks like Patanjali or something like that. The Yoga Sutras, it's like the most well-known book on the subject that teaches how to achieve certain types of psychism and things like that through pranayama, pranic breathing, and hatha yoga. Well worth reading, though a lot of people just focus on the physical aspects of the hatha yoga. There's really a lot more behind it.
So MBB says, Siofra, can you tell us of any times that you were drawn or guided towards a decision? I've had countless times of being steered away from decisions just by feeling in my belly. Okay, so I had to decide if I was going to get a divorce and ask for it or let the universe decide for me when I was with my daughter's husband. Not husband, father. He was the husband, she was the daughter, he was the father. All right, relationships. And I did 2 tarot readings. One on what would happen if I didn't do anything, and it showed me external forces coming in and destroying it. And the other on what would happen if I did it myself, and it had the same ending, but the results for me and my development were completely different. So that helped me make my decision as to which way I was going to do it. I had, when I got the job with the bus company in Santa Cruz, when I became a massage therapist, I was given all the signs of the roses that kept showing up. So I knew that that was the right job for me. And so I just had all the confidence in the world, and I got that job, which was exactly what I needed. It met all the criteria. So it's like, and I don't know how to describe this exactly, but there's a part of you that when you can access it, it's kind of like the core of your spirit, I guess, your nature. And I can take what I'm thinking of doing and show it to that part of me and then see how it reacts. And if it reacts negatively, I know it's a bad idea. If it reacts positively, I know it's a good idea. And I don't know how to explain that any other way except that I can see my soul and its nature and how what I do affects my very nature and make decisions based on that. So, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of that kind of stuff, and a lot of it's really brought out in the Kundalini yoga stuff about you have you have an internal guru that you can reach and make contact with, and you can learn from that. And then there's your higher self, and you can also get intuitions and learn from that. And then there's possible spirit guides also that can communicate with you. So there's lots of different ways that stuff can become available.
But in the end, it's your decision.
Right.
Because they don't always know what is right for you either, regardless. Because, taking control of your own decision making is part of learning. Kara Lee says a cat gives you gifts. Rita says, oh yeah, I also wanted to say happy anniversary. Hope it will be great. Thank you. Vanessa V says, I wanted to ask, but I'm not sure if it's a pertinent question, but it's something that is happening a lot lately. And I don't understand why, so I thought I couldn't lose anything by asking you guys. In the last months, I've been experiencing anxiety attacks because of my hair. I usually love my hair and take good care of it. I love it long. But now even the when I'm just brushing it or trying to braid it or whatever, I start having anxiety attacks and I just don't want it touching my skin. You might want to go see a doctor about that. It could be a mental health issue.
Yeah, well, what I found is my anxiety attacks, I have generalized ones, and they try to attach to different things. So I will get anxiety to different things depending. Like if the last 3 or 4 anxiety attacks happened when I was in the bedroom, for example, then I'll start having anxiety about going in there. Or, if the last 3 or 4 happened while I'm doing a particular thing, then my brain will latch onto that, and I'll think that it's going to give me anxiety doing it again. So it could be one of those things, just something that your anxiety is latched onto as a reason, since there's no real, physical happening to cause it, which is my case, doesn't require something, it just happens when it happens.
It also could mean that there is some kind of a memory associated with your hair that's coming to the surface.
Could be.
Since we don't know you well enough to know that.
As far as the possibilities, it could be a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You could even go past life stuff or something potentially,
So
which is less likely.
Julia says at Carolio, yes, she's feeding us. We apparently do not have enough rodent in our meals.
That's what the cats think. That's right.
Gageko says, what are those people called that can see ghosts? I think their job is to help lost spirits or something. I'm called a rescue medium. That's because I can help them cross over, not just see them. Clairvoyant is someone who can see them. They don't necessarily know how to help them cross over. There's different terms for different aspects of that. Sundrop says, I had questions, but I forgot them.
I'm sorry.
Hey, we started the Facebook page that you guys wanted us to start last Sunday. I got it started on my Facebook page, and I sent some some invitations out, but I can't remember everybody. So I put a link on the community page on the YouTube channel so you can find it. If you are on Facebook, you can just send in a request. I have 3 very basic questions for you to answer, and we'll see where it goes. But somebody wanted us to do that so they could ask these kinds of questions in a longer, more completely, without restriction for the number of letters that they put in a question. So it's there. But Violet says I skipped down. Vanessa V says, I've been wearing scarves to envelope in those cases, but I don't know why it's happening. Any ideas? So we gave you our ideas. Sundrop says, I've had bad anxiety attacks, one so bad I collapsed on the floor.
Me too.
They're terrifying and very confusing and frustrating. Violet says, it's been fun. I will get busy and go to YouTube if I get busy on painting the wax thing. Take care, you guys. Bye, Violet. Guerdo says, since we're about out of time, blessed be all. Happy Mother's Day and happy anniversary, Siofra. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Mary says, just commenting now, but I've been listening. So happy that you're here. Mary says, hey, y'all. Good to see everyone today. Rita says, I have blocked my ability to see spirits as a child. Is there any advice on regaining my ability? How would you suggest to get it back? That's going to be a longer answer, so we'll have to wait till next time. But I do have some videos on psychic abilities and seeing spirits and things that might help. And Lula says, yes, thank you so much for the Facebook group. Vanessa V says, thank you. I did have cancer as a child and lost all my hair, but I don't know why that would be coming up now. Sometimes you never know. Shadow work can come up in different forms. Vanessa V says, thank you. Carol Lee says, happy anniversary. Laura says, can people be fae creatures at the same time? Fae hybrids, partially fae? We'll have to deal with that at another time. I'll think about that. So thank you guys for spending your day with us, your time and everything else, and for asking some marvelous questions. As usual, it helps our day go by and we enjoy ourselves. So talk to you all later. You can get me on Facebook. You can send me an email at chiefersmagicalcove@gmail.com. So there's ways to connect. You can support me on Patreon if you want to for as little as $5 a month, or you can become a member of the channel and subscribe. So, bye y'all. We did that at the same time. All right.